Waffle trending when we were like 10 years old. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of You Up to My App. I'm Sir Erica Star, and I'm really excited for today's episode because we're going down memory lane. So, for those of you who watch often, I'm sure realize that a lot of my episodes are about growth and lessons and just a whole lot of learning, growing, evolving, and all that good stuff and why it's good and yada, yada, yada. You know the works. But I thought that it'd be nice to go back to where a lot of these lessons began in school, when you first start interacting with other people your age, and how awkward and weird and strange. Hey guys, I'm sorry for pausing this episode right now, but for those of you viewing the visual versions, I definitely noticed after looking through the footage that there is a lot of mascara on my eyelid. I put on setting spray, the eyelashes get wet, and then it touches my eyelid, and here we get this mess of a lid with a whole lot of smudgy mascara on it. So my apologies for being a hot mess, but just know I know it before you tear me up in the comments and say, oh my God, this bitch doesn't even know how to do her makeup. Yeah, this bitch actually evidently doesn't. So my bad. I'm sorry. Anywho, keep enjoying, and I hope you don't look at that too much because I want to fucking scream and re-record the episode, but I know it's not worth it. So yeah, okay, proceed. That time of your life can be. So yeah, I'm going to go grade by grade. Some of them being lessons, some of them just story times, just to give you a feel for how I became the person that I am and why I have the takes that I do. Because as a young Puerto Rican girl growing up in Brooklyn, I've got some odd experiences because New York City is weird as fuck. I've said this before, I'll say it again. New York City is weird, and it's weird from the beginning. So let's start in kindergarten. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. One of the oddest memories I have from kindergarten is this one time all the kids were in class, and it was such a random day. It wasn't even like it was Friday and we had like some cool Friday thing going on. We're all in class and the teacher's like, guys, I have a really big surprise for you. I'm going to need you all to put your heads down on the table, close your eyes, and I'll tell you when to put your heads back up, and there'll be a big surprise for you. I thought we were playing 7-Up and she was gonna, I don't know, like that's where my head was going. I was like, oh, we're gonna play a game today, like whatever. And that was not the case. She tells us like, okay, bring your heads back up. And you know who the fuck walks into the class? Spongebob motherfucking SquarePants. He walks into the class. It's this big, and it's a good mascot costume. It's not one of those cheap, things that you get from like Party City and you look like one of those like Elmos and Cookie Monsters at Times Square. This was a legit SpongeBob. And all of us were like, oh my God, it's SpongeBob. So the first thing that everyone decided to do was beat up SpongeBob. It was a group of, how many of us was it? It was about like 18 kids in the class. We all stand up and we just start beating the shit out of SpongeBob. And they let us. We got kids yanking his nose, people fucking with his socks, people trying to take off his boots. I just started punching. Like, it was so weird, and they let us do it. And I don't know if it was because this is a common response to this. I don't know why, but it was the weirdest thing. And I thought that I had dreamt it for a really long time until I spoke to one of my friends that I went to kindergarten with. And I was like, am I bugging? You remember that time that SpongeBob came to class? She was like, yeah, and we fucked him up. And I was like, okay, cool. To this day, I still have no idea why they brought SpongeBob in, what the significance was, why they decided that day was going to be the day. The weirdest fucking thing. I don't know. Story number 2. There was this, looking back, I realized it's really easy to get kids on board to listen when you have the dumbest incentives. Like in kindergarten, we had a marble jar, and if we were good for the day, put a marble in the jar. And if we were really good that day, my teacher had these jumbo marbles, and everyone would be like, oh my fucking God, they put a jumbo marble in there. Like that's how it went. So, what's it called? We had that, or we had things like the reading chair. So, during reading time, everybody sits at their desk and they read or whatever. But if you were really good that day, instead of sitting, or you could read on the rug, but if you're really good that day, you get to read on the rocking chair. And I knew I had that shit in the bag. The first day they introduced the rocking chair, I knew that day I was going to sit on the rocking chair and read on the rocking chair. And so I did. But that's just to give you a feel for how dumb we were as kids, in case you forgot, and how easy it was to get us really excited about something. So we're halfway into the school year, and my teacher introduces the collaboration. They're not stickers. She cut out the letters of the word collaboration, and she put them all vertically on the wall. And anytime we fucked up, or anytime that we weren't being the greatest, she would take a letter off. But we would get something in return if we got through the week with the whole word still up. And if we were really good, a letter would come back on. And collaboration is a really long word. So it's hard to end the week with no letters up. Like, you know how bad of a class you have to be to end the day with no collaboration on the board? But there was this one boy. He used to piss me the fuck off. He used to step on my feet under the table. And to this day, I still don't know what happened. I told my dad, hey, this kid steps on my feet in school. And then I never saw the kid again. Like, I'm not even kidding. To this day, still don't know what happened. But besides the point. This kid was being a little fuck. And he used to sit right across from me. And he had to have gotten left back twice. Because this kid was old. He was a big kid in kindergarten. So he knew to be a smart ass with the teacher. So the teacher would be like, okay, guys, be really good because I'm going to take off a letter. Or it was a day that we were really rowdy. And when you really got to get the kids to simmer down and you just, as a teacher, you just sit there and you just wait. You're like, I dare one of you motherfuckers to make a peep. So it was one of those days. She was pretty fed up with us. And she was, I'm going to take a letter off. And he would say something. He would make a little, just do little stupid sounds or whatever. And I was a goody two-shoes as a kid. I was like, can you stop? I was kicking him back that day. I'm like, cut it the fuck out. I was smacking his hands. I was so upset because I'm like, bro, we're down to collab. Oration is gone because of you. That's Oration. He fucked up 7 times. He purposely pissed off the teacher 7 times. And we were on collab. Oh my God, I was so mad. I was so mad. Also, in school is where I learned that the world isn't fair because they introduced that dumb shit where it's like everything's about teamwork. So if one of you, is being a pain in the ass, then all you guys are going to get in trouble for it. Like when we were in school at lunch and we had to put a little, that was the thing at our school. You had to put a peace sign up when it was time to be quiet. They blow the whistle and you put up 2 fingers. That was the thing. But if anybody at your lunch table, if they said anything or they kept talking, your asses weren't going out to recess. Or better yet, you would go out for recess and you would have to sit there and watch all the other kids have fun. And that's when I learned that life isn't fucking fair. And, I know that the goal is to teach you teamwork and collaboration, like I said before, and to really work together to get to the end goal. You know what that taught me? That who gives a fuck? If I'm the best kid, if I'm still gonna get penalized just because someone else fucked up, then I may as well talk to. That's what I learned. I didn't learn anything valuable from those types of lessons. To me, I don't know. These are foundational skills and lessons and stuff that they teach you in elementary school. But I just think they teach it the wrong way because I didn't receive it the way it was supposed to be received. Okay, we're on to first grade. So first grade, I would say, is when the crushes really started developing. That's when I was really you go into kindergarten and you're like, okay, all these people are my friends. This is cool. This is just me and my friends. We're just hanging. But then you get into first grade and you're like, oh, that boy's kind of cute, oh my God, they sat me next to that boy. Oh, it's the best day of my life. You start caring if a boy's absent or something. So I quickly learned, it has to be in the blood. I quickly learned, little ways to give the boys the hint that I like them or that I was interested, or to set them up in a way that other people looking at us would think that we were a thing. I was smart for a little 6-year-old. Because this was around the time how old was I? I was 6 and 7, I think, for the first grade. And that was around the time the High School Musical came out. And if I'm wrong, then it was second grade. But it doesn't matter. The story is still the same story. So High School Musical had just come out, and that's when, CDs were still a thing. So I had the High School Musical CD. And in the CD packs or, packaging, you would have the lyrics in there. So what I would do is before school started, everybody sat in the lunchroom. That's where the kids got dropped off. And me and the girls, like we would sing the High School Musical songs and we would look at the lyrics on the little papers that came with the CD. And I would tell like the boys that I like, oh, come on, come sing with us. And I would purposely be like, okay, you're Troy, I'm Gabriella. I don't give a fuck who anybody else is. And I would put us in a situation where we got to sing together a sweet little song, started something new, And I swear to God, it worked. That shit worked. It worked every time. And everyone used to be like, ooh, Erica's Gabriella and this boy is Troy. Like, ah! And I used to be like, I know. This was all a part of the plan. And I think it's funny looking back, like kids know. They're not as dumb as you think, I swear. Oh, that brings me to my next story, also having to do with like crushes and being young. So when you're, in first grade, you're still doing like reading time on the rug. Like everybody, sits down on the rug and the teacher reads a book to you or whatever. So there was this one time, I'm still friends with this guy, by the way. And this is if he hears this is going to be such a weird story. But I was sitting in front of him and I had a crush on him. And I don't know what the logic was. I really don't. But I had this idea that if he saw my back, like my literal back, the skin on my back, that would be like, ooh, sexy. I have no idea why. I don't know. Like every time I cringe every time I think about this story because I'm like, what the fuck was that even about? So I would sit in front of him, and this happened once because you'll see I learned to cut that shit out. I would sit in front of him and I would just start like scratching my back and, causing me to lift up my shirt, on the back. And I thought that him seeing my back would spark something I'm trying to make sense of it as I'm saying it, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. And I didn't know lie for like 10 minutes. Like we got really far into story time before he was like, Erica, ew, can you stop? That's kind of gross. And I was just like, oh, sorry. Like my back was just itching. But I don't know. I feel like those are some really good humbling moments to have really young that like I feel like stuff like that follows me into now because I could think I'm the shit and I could post whatever pictures, I could post whatever videos, I could be all confident, and I still have the understanding that there are men out there who are like, ew, like you're disgusting. You're gross. Why are you talking about that? Why are you dressed like that? Why are you wearing makeup like that? And that's completely okay. And I'm not saying that what I was doing was correct or like okay by any means, scratching my back for a long period of time in front of somebody on a rug. Like looking back, that is gross. Like if somebody did that now or even on the train, I'd be like, oh my God, your fucking dry skin flakes are gonna get all over me. So all in all, I think it was a valuable thing to experience. The next story is just about I think the next story is something that someone, I guess, that I experienced really early on that taught me like kids know if they're gay. Like kids 100% know. Identity and sexuality are, I feel like, really obvious really early on. And I say that because there was this one girl, her name was Lizette, and she was a little oddball, but it's because she was a tomboy. So like, she wasn't oddball because she was a tomboy, but she was like the odd one out in a lot of situations because she was a tomboy, but she was also odd as fuck. Like she had like little things about her that I'm like, or at least I used to be like, like, yeah, you kind of weirded me out just now. But she used to do this thing at lunchtime, and she used to be like, I'm Spider-Man. And we were like, Lizette, what the fuck, what are you talking about? And she used to tell us like, I am Spider-Man. Like, I be doing the pss, 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 and doing the shit with her fingers and stuff. And like, she used to start like doing like the stance, like that weird squat shit that Spider-Man does. And she'd be like, I'm Spider-Man. Like, and there wasn't much explanation. And we were like, yo, like, what are you saying? what do you mean he's Spider-Man? Spider-Man's in a movie, not an actor or a boy. Like, what are you saying? And then she goes, I'm a boy. And we were like, all right, you're confusing us now. Your name's Lizette. And then she used to tell us, like, no, like, I have a penis, but like, you guys don't know. And when I go to the bathroom, I pee standing up. So like, this is one part of me that hasn't changed and probably will never change. When someone says some shit like that, you get curious because you're like, all right, I need to see what the fuck what's going on, because this is getting kind of strange. So one time during lunch, I went to the bathroom after she called up to go to the bathroom, and I watched her feet when she was peeing, you know. And I know this sounds weird, but we're kids. Remember, I was like 6. I'm curious. But once again, at 25, I'd probably do the same shit. And she was peeing, right? So I hear the pee, and I'm like, okay, that's my time to look at her feet. Her feet were the opposite way. The bitch was standing up. But I didn't think enough at the time to look at whether or not her feet were around the toilet, because maybe she knew that I was going to follow up behind her, and she peed standing up, but kind of like squatting over the toilet. But I was not thinking that far. All I saw was her feet pointing toward the wall, and I was like, oh, she's a boy. So I was the one that verified to everyone else, Lizette does in fact pee standing up. I don't know what y'all want to do with that information, but I believe her. So she's Spider-Man. And that was it. Like, she kept up with that story, I think, going into 2nd grade, and then eventually she just realized she was gay. And yeah, so there goes that. I feel like kids are so much more accepting. Like, if all it took for the class to, like, I guess believe her was me being like, nah, checks out. Even though, once again, I shouldn't have gone as far as I did to do the investigation. But afterwards, once we found that she was gay, and like I said, we were just like 3rd, 4th graders, we were like, okay, I guess, whatever. And that was it. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares as a kid. I wish that as adults, we just cared a lot less about stuff like that. It doesn't matter. 2nd grade, I don't have too many stories. 2nd grade, I think, was a chill year for me. Pretty sure it was a chill year. But one thing I will say is that I appreciate my one teacher, Miss Sullivan, because she was young. She was definitely young. And looking back, she was probably my age. She was this Irish woman, and most of her personality was being Irish, so much so that on St. Patrick's Day, she did this huge thing for us. She dressed up like a leprechaun. And then she did this whole thing where she acted like leprechauns took over our classroom. We went to recess and we came back, and there were chairs everywhere, and the room was wrecked, and they wrote things, and there was glitter everywhere. It was a fucking mess, and we had to clean it up. And then the leprechaun had like footprints or something, and it led us down to, I think, like the library. It was pretty much like a scavenger hunt all throughout the school. And then it led us to a pot of gold. Like, there was a rainbow, and at the end was a pot of gold, but the pot of gold was glazed donut holes from Dunkin' Donuts. And I don't know why I remember it so vividly, but I do. And I remember it being so fun and so exciting and so like, oh my God, leprechauns, because I don't know if you guys know this, but your girl believed in Santa until she was 13. So a leprechaun, I was all in. I was like, what the fuck? But that's a story for another time. But I say that to say, you know, like, giving you guys a little teacher appreciation moment. Like, I don't know. I feel like for people going into like the teaching profession and stuff, there are others who are like, why do you do all this for the kids? Why do you do these extravagant things for kids that aren't going to remember? You're paying for this out of your own pocket, yada, yada, yada. I'm 25, and that's a story from when I was 6, 7 or 7 or 8 or whatever. And for whatever reason, it stuck, and I appreciate it. And, 2 decades later, I'm still talking about it. So if you have teacher friends, stop yelling at them. Stop giving your 2 cents, because clearly you weren't a kid who thought about it or appreciated it. But there are kids who will think about it later and who will appreciate it. And if they ever come back to the school, they'll mention it. I still send, well, not still send. I did Christmas cards 1 year, but I sent one to my kindergarten teacher because I was like, she was great. For whatever reason, I still remember. I don't know why. We had a letter every week. That was like the letter of the week. And we did different arts and crafts that week having to do with that letter. And I don't know why. I really remember when we had to make a dog out of the letter D. So we would take a capital D and put a tongue at the bottom, and the eyes on the top, and ears. And I like, once again, I don't know why I remember these things, but I do. And it's because I had great teachers who cared about their students more than probably their parents did. I'm not talking about my parents. My parents care about me. But I can't speak for a lot of other kids where I can say teachers definitely cared about them more than their parents did. Let's move on to third grade. Third grade was cool. Third grade in elementary school was a big deal because that's when you started being allowed to go to the parties. So that was when I was like, I'm an adult. And another thing too, third grade is oh my God, there was something else you got to do at third grade. Oh, we had this Halloween parade thing that we did every year at my elementary school. But what is it? I forgot what it is. I don't know if. Damn it! There was something different we got to do when third grade came along. I don't know if it was being allowed to walk the parade or we gave candy to the kids walking the parade. Regardless, it was cooler than whatever we were doing when we were younger. And that was something that made you feel like an adult because they made third grade feel like a big deal because that's when you start taking state tests. Like third grade was, it was, you were a top dog in third grade. You were right smack in the middle. So third grade, there was this one was definitely a lesson. And I don't know how to explain this lesson, but I'm going to tell the story first. And I'll probably figure it out as I go. There was this one teacher, Miss Bowler. I'm a name drop because her class was one of the most anxiety-inducing things. I don't know if it was because of the way that she spoke or how serious she took her class. She was the science teacher. Or even like the deadlines that she gave us. Like she always had us do things that took a lot of time. And she used to tell us, oh, this is due in 3 days. And I'm like, girl, you want me to decorate the cover of my notebook in 3 days with construction paper and all these arts and crafts? I am 8. I don't have money. I need to tell my mom to go to the 99-cent store. And if she can't make it today or tomorrow, I'm definitely not going to have this in 3 days. But, elementary schools, they forget that we don't do shit ourselves, apparently. I'm sorry. Miss Bowler was not my favorite. I hope she softened up over the years, but she was not. I'm sorry. Anyways, there was a day that I guess maybe it was a day that she didn't feel like teaching or something. And she was like, okay, guys, for this whole class, you guys are just going to like color and make drawings and shit. So I finished my drawing like halfway through class as the overachiever that I am. And I remember I brought it up to her and I was like, here, like I already finished my drawing. And she goes, already finished your drawing? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, are you suggesting that you want more work or something? Are you suggesting that I didn't give you enough to do? And I took my drawing back so fast. I said, actually, I have more details I want to put on it. And I just dilly-dallied for the rest of the class. And that moment, in the same way you remember the really good things, you also remember like the really like, bitch, why did you say that to me things, Because why did you have to come at me like that? Why did you have okay, my fault that you didn't want to do work that day, or maybe you didn't want to assign me something else that you had to actually check, or you didn't want to give me another piece of paper maybe and some more crayons, but you didn't have to say that. Like from that moment on, once again, like, how you try to teach these kids lessons and it doesn't translate the same way? All that showed me is that you just got to do the bare minimum, do what you got to do, and then just sit on your ass for the rest of the time, and you're going to get the same amount of credit as everyone else. That's it. And I hate that. Like, I don't know why. I remember that moment. I just remember being really excited to show her my drawing. Like, I already finished one, and I didn't even mean it in that way either. I was just like, oh, like, I finished my drawing so fast. And she was just like, oh, you already finished it? Like, the fuck else do you want? And I was like, whoa. And that was an icky feeling. Because I think back to myself when I was a kid. And I was a pretty cute kid. I was getting cuter at that time. And I'm like, damn, I would have not liked to have seen little me be like, oh. But anyways, back to the good things. Third grade is when they really started like emphasizing the importance of a planner. And every year at school, they gave us these cool planners with these like, what is it? You guys know what I'm talking about. The covers that have that if you look at it one way, it shows one picture, and you just move it a little bit, and then it shows another picture. I don't know what those things are called, but every cover was one of those types of covers. And in our planner, you wrote down everything you had to do when you got home. And they even had a section for notes. They had a section with different little quotes. They had sections with even some games if you got bored with your friends. Like, oh my gosh, this was amazing, because now when I have planners, I want the same thing. I want a section for notes. I want a section for little dilly-dallying drawings and stuff. Or like some planners come with coloring pages on days that, like, at least when I was in college, if like the class was boring, I would just color in that page. Like, planners were a big thing in elementary school. And they always told us, remember your planner, remember to write your homework in your planner. Planner. And then your parent would have to sign off at the bottom every time you do your homework. That was some BS. I forged my mother's signature every single day. Like, I did my homework and I would just forge it because she knew I did it. I'll just tell her I did it. I'll just forge it because she was too busy with other things. So, yeah, like, my love for a planner and organization started all the way back then. Like, I wonder if I'd be as into them as I am if my school didn't give me them. Those things were great. And now I'm going to talk about the height of third grade. This, I think, it started, okay, no, it didn't start the beginnings of my main character energy, but it definitely enforced it. Me and some friends, we auditioned for the talent show. And I forget which year this was. I'm pretty sure it was the year that we auditioned to sing Baby by Justin Bieber. That apparently was the year that everybody wanted to sing Baby by Justin Bieber. So they put everyone who wanted to sing Baby into this one huge performance. It was probably like 40 kids. Some of them were dancing, some of them were singing or whatever. And Miss Fox, I'm name dropping again. She pulls me to the side of after my audition, and she was like, I don't know if you're too young for this, but you know Destiny's Child? And I said, yes. She was like, you're Beyoncé. Yo, I don't think she understood what she was telling me, because I am the wrong one to tell that she's Beyoncé in Destiny's Child. And she never told me don't tell your friends this. I don't know if my friends knew who Destiny's Child was, but I definitely went back to them and was like, okay, guys, like, I love you guys, and I'm still gonna be in the big group performance for when we sing Baby, but I'm also doing a solo because Miss Fox said I should do one because she said that my singing was pretty much better than you guys's. They didn't take it well. We stood friends, but they definitely didn't take it well. And they were just like, she said that too, and I was like, yup, I'm Beyonce. Like, what can I say? Like, you probably Kelly, like, yeah, but I'm Beyonce. And I've never let go of that. I remember coming home to my mom and telling her, and she was like, she said that? And I was like, yes, the fuck she did. Oh my God. I'm telling you, like, the things that you say to kids, stick with them. Because here I am at 25, I'm Beyonce. All because Miss Fox said so. Oh, man. Okay, fourth grade. Fourth grade, I was into boys again. I mean, I was always into boys, but I guess there was another wave. Fourth grade, I remember... Okay, let me give you some context. I was always really good at school. School was my thing. I was just great at it. I don't know what else to say. I don't even mean to sound like an asshole, but hundreds across the board. So I was really good at math. Math is my main squeeze. And there was this one teacher, Mr. Cadero. He was the math guy. He was like, I don't know, like, we didn't have teachers for every subject, but everyone just knew, like, he was the math guy. Like, I don't even think he was head of any math department or anything, but he was just the math guy. And he had a class, and I was in Miss Steele's class at the time. And every time I finished early, which I always did in my math class with Miss Steele, I would tell her to check my stuff. She checked it, and I'd be like, oh, can I go to Mr. Cadero's class to take one of his math cards? Because he had these cards with, like, harder math equations and stuff on them, or, like, word problems and all that. And he would have them, and I would just come in and take one, go back to my class, and finish it and bring it back. And sometimes I would do several in a day. Like, that's just what I did. And the only reason I did it, like, yeah, I like math, but I like the boy in his class more. So this was one of the times that having a crush helped me. I was working my little brain like crazy just so I could go into the class and be like, hey, Mr. Cadero, can I get a math card? And all the boys in his class knew why I was there. They used to be like, ooh, Erica's here. Nice to, and I would make sure I give my little eyes to the boy, about my little eyelashes, like, hey, my little sparkly shirt and shit. Like, looking back, like, I look like, I don't, that was when those shirts with the monkeys on it were, like, popular. And, like, my clothes were all from Justice. And I was wearing earrings from Claire's. And, oh, man. Look at, like, I was just so corny looking back. Like, bitch, who do you think you are? Beyoncé. All right, let me. Okay. Point is, I use math to see a boy. And this leads me to another random little thing. Something I can't stand. Like, okay, okay. Like, as I guess got older and stuff, and stereotypes became a thing about people with different professions. Like, some people say, like, oh, like, never date a nurse. I still don't know the reasoning behind that, but it's one that I've heard a lot. I would always say that I would never date a teacher because teachers take that work husband, work wife shit, like, to, oh my, like, oh, I can't even get it out. Like, because as a kid, I see it every time, like, the guy teacher comes into my classroom, and my teacher's a woman, and they start chatting and stuff, and they do that dumb shit where they put the folder in front of their mouths so that the kids can't read their lips, but you can still kind of hear them. That shit used to piss me off. But I'm like, these folders are the same width of our, like, notebooks. And I'm like, your faces got to be really close if I can't see either of your faces behind the folders. Sometimes I would start wondering, like, are y'all kissing behind the folder? Is that what you're doing? Because you got to be really close. And if that was my man, I'd be like, why the fuck are you going into that girl's classroom or that woman's classroom talking to her behind a folder? Talk at lunch. Why do you got to go into her classroom and start saying shit to her? And then they would giggle and stuff. Oh my God. Or at the dances, that you could see that those two were, like, paired off. Or you'd see them leave the school together, like, after school, that they would hang out because they're friends. Please. Please, please, please. I feel like I had so many teachers who had work husbands. And, I'm not grossed out by it, like, as a kid. I'm just grossed out by it, like, as an adult. Like, these guys, they, like, oh my gosh. Now I'm thinking, like, these high school teachers, I feel like they're living like they're still in high school. Like, they're still going to high school because they do the same shit. Like, they just walking around school, like, oh, I'm going to walk you to class, or I'm going to hop in your class, or they pull a me and get a math card. Ew. Never date a teacher. No. If you're dating a teacher, y'all should work in the same school. You should both be teachers. Or one of you be the principals to see if anybody else snitches on your man. Because, whatever. That shit just disgusted me. And last but not least, I left this, what's it called? This story for last. One, because it's a 5th grade story. And also because this person is someone that I just will never forget. And once again, it brings me back to the story about, like, kids just know that they're gay. And I guess I always got along with these kids, because there was this one kid. His name was Dominique Bonnet. It was written like Bonnet, but he pronounced it Bonnet. And his name was Dominic, but it was written Dominique. And he told us, you can call me Dominique. And we were like, okay, but the teachers called him Dominic. Like, his whole name was confusing already. And he was just so out there and so, like, just himself and, like, flamboyant and everything. And I'll never forget this one time that he was reading out loud and he had to read the word ambulance. And he said ambulance. Just like, oh my God, I did it perfect. He said it just like that. And I remember going back to my mom and telling her, and she thought it was hilarious. And it was just one of those, like, funny things because Nobody else caught on. Like in the classroom, everyone was like, "Oh, he said it fine." I'm like, "These are some dumbass fifth graders," but whatever. That wasn't the main story I was gonna say. The main story was this one time we were in computer class, and I computer class was another one that I was really good at. We had like that program where you have to like use codes and shit to move a turtle across the screen or whatever. I was great at that. And I remember there was this one time because Nicki Minaj, of course, has always been a thing and will always be a thing. She was in her super bass era at the time. And I remember Dominic was like, "You want to see something?" Because I guess like Google was, you know, what's it called? It was what's the word? Like it wasn't locked on his computer for some reason. Like not Google, but like certain things weren't locked. And he was like, "Look at this." And first, ignore the Nicki Minaj comment. I'm gonna get to that. But the first thing he looked up was Blue Waffle because that was going around at the time. And he was like, "Look, like that's women's parts, like ew." And I was just like, "Ew, I don't want to see that shit either. I'm a woman, I don't care." Or I was a girl, but you know what I mean. Had a vagina. And then he was like, "Oh wait, I'm gonna look up something else." And then he puts Nicki Minaj titties, and then he's like, and I was like, "Dominic, like, why? We're in school." And he looks it up and just a bunch of pictures and stuff of just her with her bra, like her push-up bras, and then her with like, I don't even know what size her boobs were at the time, but they got bigger. And we were looking at befores and afters and yada, yada, yada. Like, he found pictures. I brought up the push-up bras because there were even pictures that were like, Nicki Minaj without a push-up bra, Nicki Minaj with the push-up bra, Nicki Minaj post-surgery. And I was like, okay, like you really are doing your research on this woman's breasts. Are you even gay? You know? And then he started looking up Nicki Minaj booty. And then a bunch of those came up. And then he was giggling so much. And I guess the concern on my face had shown too, because I can't hide my feelings on my face. And Mr. Zeller, he was like, "What are you guys looking at?" And the way that the computer lab was set up was like a horseshoe situation. So he was farthest from us in a way that it took him a little bit to get to us. And Dominic is freaking the fuck out. Or yeah, he's freaking out. And I was like, it's okay, because I was one of the few kids who knew how to clear history. And so Mr. Zeller comes and he checks the history and he looks at Dominic and he's just like, "You get a pass this time." And then he looked at me because he knew Dominic didn't know how to do that. He knew it was me. But yeah, that was a funny little moment. And I feel like it just shows how stupid we are as kids. Like, why was that exciting for us? Why was that even a thing? Another thing too, why was Blue Waffle trending when we were like 10 years old? Like half, or I want to say even most of us didn't even know how sex worked, but we know everything about this STD. Like what? And to this day, I don't think I even know what Blue Waffle is. Like, why is it turning blue? That's some research for another time. Not too much on this elementary school centered episode. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed these stories from my childhood because they have certainly made me who I am today. And I hope this gives you some just some insight on what it's like to be young and foolish and just I don't even know how to call it. Just a kid in NYC, just a kid in Brooklyn figuring out their way in school and stuff, because it was interesting. And from what I've learned from my friends who lived elsewhere, their stories were either really boring or really traumatic. And I just feel like New York is the perfect in between. Like, it's weird. Trust me, it's going to be weird and it's odd. But if I, were to have kids anywhere, I would want them to have the same stories or funkier ones, just ones where they don't get hurt. But I think they're funny. Like, I feel like these are just, I don't think you can get these experiences anywhere else. I feel like other places are just so boring. So that's a really big message to have at the end of this podcast. Oh, raise your kids in New York City. Like, all right, I know it's not the best for other reasons, but I had a fun time. At least, being in elementary school from 2004 to 2011, that shit was fun during that time period. I don't know about now. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, I have probably tons of more embarrassing moments from middle school, maybe more from elementary school that I forgot. And I think I have a decent amount from high school. So if you want different iterations of this kind of episode, please let me know, because I got stories for days. I just feel like no one wants to hear stories from when you're a kid because all of a sudden, like, they're not important. I think they're important. So if you think they're important too, let me know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please rate me 5 stars wherever you're watching or viewing this. Yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Support me. Follow me on Instagram at Yip to my Yap or my personal at Moments by Star, whichever is cool. And I think that is all for today. So thank you once again. I love you, and I will see you next week. Bye.